Jasmine Washington froze at the sound she heard at 2:45 a.m. while cleaning the abandoned machines at King Cotton Mill. She was hearing the whir-clack-clack sound of old cotton machines, but the electricity had been cut since 1954. As the sound approached, she walked toward the area where the machines were operating. When she turned the corner, the scene she saw horrified her. Ghost workers wearing blue work clothes from the 1890s were working at cotton machines, but all the workers were African American and carried banners reading, "Freedom or Death." One of the workers turned to Jasmine and smiled with his blood-stained face. "New sister." "Very good. We need 67 more people to achieve justice." Jasmine realized at that moment that at King Cotton Mill, Memphis's darkest secret, it wasn't just cotton that was processed. African American workers who fought for worker rights during the Jim Crow era had been systematically killed. Jasmine Washington was a 28-year-old African American cleaning worker. She grew up in Memphis's South Side, and her grandmother, Ruby Washington, had also worked as a laborer at the same King Cotton Mill in the 1940s. Now, Jasmine was doing the final cleaning work in 2024 before this historic cotton factory's conversion to a luxury residential complex. King Cotton Mill was one of America's largest cotton processing centers from 1870 to 1954 and was the symbol of Memphis, the cotton capital of the South. The factory established during Reconstruction provided job opportunities for freed slaves, but it was also where Jim Crow laws were most ruthlessly enforced. Jasmine's job was simple: clean old factory buildings from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. and prevent vandalism. But from her first night, she would realize this job wouldn't be simple at all. On her first night, November 18, 2024, Jasmine began hearing strange sounds while working in the main production hall. First came distant spiritual songs, "Swing Low," "Sweet Chariot," and "Go Down Moses." But the factory had been empty for half a century. Then came the rhythmic working sound of cotton machines. Most disturbing were hundreds of African American workers singing the "We Shall Overcome" march. Jasmine checked the security system. Nothing was visible, but the sounds continued and were getting closer. On the second night, Jasmine decided to go where the sounds were coming from. When she entered the main cotton processing hall, a cold wind hit her face. Old machines were running silently, and invisible cotton bales were moving on the conveyor. When Jasmine approached, she saw fresh blood traces on the ground and found an old worker badge next to them. King Cotton Mill, worker number 67, Colored Division, 1892. 1892 was when Jim Crow laws were most harshly enforced. When Jasmine picked up the badge, suddenly everything around seemed to have returned to the 1890s. African American workers were working, white foremen were beating them, and most horrifyingly, some workers were dying in accidents. On the third night, Jasmine researched King Cotton Mill in the 1890s. The documents she found at Memphis Public Library were horrifying. Between 1890 to 1900, 67 African American workers had died during worker accidents at King Cotton Mill. But the causes of death were suspicious: machine accident, chemical poisoning, fire. Strangest of all, most of the dead workers were worker rights activists and those listed as uppity Negroes, who could read and write. Where the bodies were buried wasn't in the records. That night, Jasmine decided to investigate the factory's old administration building. She found a secret room behind the old office of the Thompson family, the mill owners. When she opened the door, the scene she encountered nauseated her. 67 worker clothes, blood-stained and torn, hung inside metal lockers. On the walls were labels, "Negro Discipline, Thompson, Mill Security." Jasmine understood the horrific truth. King Cotton Mill wasn't just processing cotton. They were systematically killing rebellious African American workers to maintain the Jim Crow system. On the fourth night, Jasmine tried to talk to the clothes. When she asked, "What happened to you?" the room's temperature suddenly dropped. Suddenly, 67 voices began speaking at once. "They killed us because we wanted our rights. Our families don't know the truth." The clearest voice belonged to Ezekiel "Zeke" Freeman, owner of worker number 67. "I could read and write. I was teaching other workers their rights. Thompson's men targeted me. They lynched me." When Jasmine listened to Zeke's story, she felt her heart breaking. Zeke was only 24, a young African-American leader. He had received education in the post-slavery period and was teaching other workers to read and write. When he started working at King Cotton Mill, he tried to organize for worker rights. he became a target of mill owner Colonel James Thompson's private security forces and was killed one night in an accident. On the fifth night, Jasmine researched Colonel Thompson. Shocking discovery. Thompson was a former Confederate officer and the secret leader of the Memphis chapter of the KKK. In the 1890s, he operated King Cotton Mill not just to make money, but to keep the African American community under control. All black workers in the factory were a continuation of Thompson's plantation system. That night, Jasmine listened to each of the 67 workers' stories. Sarah Collins, 19, was one of the first black female machinists. Moses Johnson, 31, was a worker leader. Little Mary Turner, 16, was a cotton picker. They were all young people dreaming of freedom and wanting equal rights, but they became victims of Thompson's racial discipline system. Each was killed in an accident for acting uppity. On the sixth night, Jasmine spoke with the youngest victim, Mary Turner. Mary's voice was like a child's. "Miss Jasmine, is my mother waiting for me?" In Mississippi, in the Delta. I had written her a letter saying, "I'm making good money in Memphis," but I never got a reply. Jasmine's eyes filled with tears. "Mary, that letter never reached her. It's been 130 years. Mary started crying. 130 years? Is Mother dead now? Jasmine nodded. Mary's sobs filled the entire room. On the seventh night, Jasmine learned more details from Zeke Freeman. Zeke explained Colonel Thompson's system at King Cotton Mill. Thompson divided workers into 3 categories: good Negroes, bad Negroes, and dangerous Negroes. We 67 people were workers in the dangerous category because we were educated and wanted rights. Jasmine wanted to learn the details of Thompson's racial control system. The information Zeke gave was shocking. Thompson was cooperating with the KKK. He was watching every African American worker in the factory. Anyone who acted uppity, taught reading and writing, or organized was listed and killed one by one. Working at the mill was a life opportunity but also a death trap. On the 8th night, Jasmine spoke with Sarah Collins. Sarah described the special cruelty applied to female workers. "Sister Jasmine, the situation was even harder for us women. Thompson's white foreman sexually assaulted us. Women who resisted were made to have accidents. I became a target for protesting the machine." What Sarah told deeply shook Jasmine. Racial and sexual cruelty had combined. On the 9th night, Jasmine listened to Moses Johnson's story. Moses gave the most shocking detail. "Jasmine, Thompson's system didn't just kill workers. They also threatened our families. They told my wife Bessie, 'If you open Moses's mouth, we'll kill you too. Our 67 families have been silenced by fear for 130 years. What Moses said shocked Jasmine. Victim families were also under pressure. On the 10th night, Jasmine asked the 67 workers, "How can I help you?" They all wanted the same thing. Reveal the truth, expose Thompson's KKK connection, show the face of Jim Crow cruelty at King Cotton Mill. Zeke added, "Our bodies are in Mississippi River, but our souls are trapped here until we find justice." Jasmine deepened her research. She found 1890s Memphis police files showing Colonel Thompson's connection to the KKK. Thompson wasn't just a mill owner. He was also the Grand Dragon of Memphis KKK. He was the leader of the systematic terror campaign against African American workers. On the 11th night, Jasmine found secret documents next to the worker clothes. Colonel Thompson's Negro Control records. Each worker's danger level, execution date, and body disposal method. The most valuable document was an order from Memphis KKK to Thompson to eliminate uppity Negroes at mill. Jasmine realized these documents could be evidence. Jasmine leaked the documents to the Memphis Commercial Appeal. On November 20th, 2024, the headline read, "Memphis's 130-year Jim Crow Massacre, 67. Black workers secretly killed." The news echoed in national media. The FBI reopened Colonel Thompson's file after 130 years. On the 12th night, Jasmine spoke with the workers for the last time. Zeke gratefully, "Sister Jasmine, you're our hero. We've been waiting for 130 years. Sarah, the true face of Jim Crow has been revealed. Mary, Mother is at peace now, but she understands my struggle. Moses, dying for rights wasn't in vain. Jasmine asked, "Can you find peace now?" 67 voices at once. Yes, but first we want to say goodbye to our families. Zeke continued. Our families haven't known the truth for 130 years. Tell them we were heroes. Jasmine, cooperating with the FBI, started a search in Mississippi River. Underwater research found 67 skeletons from the 1890s. DNA tests confirmed these were the missing workers. A grand memorial service was held in Memphis for the 67 workers. Each of their names was carved into the National Civil Rights Museum. Mary Turner's great-great-granddaughter came from Mississippi. We finally learned what happened to our great-great-grandmother. After 130 years, but the injustice was revealed. Members of Zeke Freeman's family came from Memphis. Zeke's civil rights struggle wasn't wasted. Thanks to Jasmine, the truth is known. Sarah Collins' descendants came from Arkansas. Each family reconciled with their ancestral spirits after 130 years. After Jasmine's discovery, Thompson family descendants issued an official apology. Our ancestors' crimes are not ours, but we feel responsibility. We will pay compensation to victim families. The Thompson family donated inherited cotton plantations to a civil rights foundation. Memphis City Council agreed to pay $1 million compensation for each of the 67 workers killed at King Cotton Mill. Additionally, the Thompson family's KKK connection was officially acknowledged. Jasmine's work became a source for academic studies researching Jim Crow terror history in the U.S. The Jasmine Washington Civil Rights Research Center was established at the University of Memphis. The King Cotton Mill complex wasn't demolished. Instead, it became the Memphis Jim Crow Memorial Museum. Jasmine was appointed as the museum's chief curator. Visitors learn the story of 67 workers and see the horrific truth of Jim Crow terror. Jasmine visited her grandmother, Ruby Washington's grave. Grandma, I revealed King Cotton Mill's dark secret. The injustice of 67 workers has ended. Jasmine thought her grandmother might have heard this story while working at the same factory. At the museum opening, the spirits of 67 workers thanked Jasmine one last time. Zeke, we're at peace now, Jasmine. Our civil rights struggle continues. Mary, you're our angel. Sarah, thank you, sister. Moses, freedom at last. 67 voices united. Justice finally found its place. Jasmine Washington's experience at King Cotton Mill illuminated one of Memphis's darkest pages, bringing peace to the souls of 67 innocent workers who suffered injustice after 130 years. The victims of Jim Crow terror would finally be remembered and commemorated. What do you think about Jasmine's courage to reveal this 130-year Jim Crow terror? How does the story of these 67 people killed for worker rights and racial justice affect you? If you were in Jasmine's place, would you have the courage to reveal these truths against such a deep-rooted system? Share your thoughts in the comments.